Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And the Giants have signed Paulson Adebo. They've re-signed Darius Slayton. They've signed James Hudson, Robertson-Harris, and Chris Board. And quarterback has yet to happen. And it's Justin's birthday, but this is one of our biggest shows of the year, so we can't talk about it until the very end of the show. Happy birthday, Justin, and welcome Paulson Adebo to the New York Giants.
Yeah, welcome to Paulson Adebo, and also welcome back Darius Slayton. Welcome the rest of the folks. I know they're listening to the show, and they appreciate this welcome. And welcome back to Slayton. You want to know what I want for my birthday? I want 40,000 subscribers on the Talking Giants channel. So we're at 39 right now. I would like to get to 40. Bobby, pretty decent day for the Giants' first day of free agency. I think the expectation is that the Giants were going to get a corner. I know we're waiting on line, and we're especially waiting on quarterback, right? But I think after day one, what I'm kind of most excited with is that I'm not looking at this Giants team and this Giants roster saying, oh, Joe Schoen went all in and Joe Schoen was irresponsible. This was a nice calculated day one. There's some things that I know a lot of people are hot on, like the paying for depth interior defensive line, paying for the swing tackle, a lot of money that we're going to talk about it. But I don't really feel any differently about the Giants than I did yesterday, and I think, honestly, that's a good thing. Paulson Adebo is really cool.
Yeah, I really like Paulson Adebo. We did our free agency preview, and I said I thought he was the best corner available on the market. Obviously, you guys know my feelings on Darius Slayton. We'll talk about that. Getting him back at that number, to me, I'm still shocked by it. Every time we talk about it, it's great. So there are two big contracts I like. Obviously, the quarterback domino hasn't fallen yet. The Giants aren't a very desirable spot, as we've seen so far. Rodgers preferred. We'll when that happens, that happens. But we're here to talk about day one. So let's talk about Paulson Adebo, Justin. 24 years old, 6'1". He signed a 3-year, $54 million deal with the Giants. 2 years of that being guaranteed, essentially, with $36 million. $18 million average annual value, which was kind of middle of the road for the cornerback that got out there. J.C. Horn, who wasn't a free agent, got $25 million from the Panthers. Woo. Byron Murphy got $22 million from the Vikings. Carlton Davis got $20 million from the Patriots. Charvarius Ward got $20 million from the Colts. And then DJ Reed got $16 million from the Lions. And then Nate Hobbs and Brandon Stevens got $12 million from their team. So Adebo falls in there. And I think coming off the broken leg is why he wasn't in the $22 million. Because I think without that, he's easily in there. He might have even been a little bit more than that. We've seen the video of him doing backflips and all that good stuff coming back from his injury. Again, Justin, I thought he was the best cornerback out there without obviously considering the injury. Last year he played 7 games, gave up over 400 yards, a touchdown, but had 3 interceptions, 7 pass breakups. The year before, over 700 yards, a touchdown, 4 interceptions, 11 pass breakups. So in 22 games, he's given up 2 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and then 18 pass breakups. And he's ranked 8th in forcing completion rate last year, was first in that in 2023. Now there's penalties that come with it. There is yards that he gives up. But I enjoy watching him play corner. He's a physical press man corner. I like him coming out of Stanford. Shout out Diggy, who did a video on him. I think he's really knows how to use his leverage. He's patient within his aggression. You don't ever really see him get sauced. And then the ball skills, man. The ball skills are... It is an elite trait that he has, right? He's not an elite corner. We can do cornerback rankings and wherever he'd fall, whether it's 14th or 15th, whatever. But his ball skills are a legitimate elite tool that he has that the Giants have not had, and has been a huge issue for them, especially with Deonte Banks.
No, I mean I think this is the best corner with the best ball skills that we've had since we've started covering this team, Bobby. Since we started, you started doing this in 2019. I started doing this in 2018. In terms of a cornerback with ball skills that could turn his head and play the football, force incompletions, get passes defensed, and pass breakups, I think Paulson Adebo is the best. Maybe I think James Bradbury is the best cover corner, but in terms of the guy that's making a play on the football, I mean, Paulson Adebo's it. Allowed minus 7.3 fewer receptions than expected in 2023. That was the fewest out of any cornerback. And before getting hurt in week 7 of this year, Adebo did lead the league in passes defensed. Now, he was targeted a lot, 54 times from weeks 1 through 7. That was the most of any defender. yet he allowed the fewest target EPA, minus 23.6, among outside cornerbacks as well. And since 2023, despite only playing in 22 games, Adebo is tied for 6th in pass breakups. And there's other stats that, we're going to, inevitably get into as well. But I value that trait so much, especially in today's NFL, where wide receivers are getting better and the reliance on wide receiver ones are getting better, right? Offensive coordinators are thinking of different ways to get the ball to wide receivers. And, even in a league where it's so easy to get penalties, I just value the trait of being targeted. I don't mind if my cornerback 1 gets targeted. I think it's a little overrated not overrated, but I think it's, I don't need my cornerback 1 to be shut down, because then guess what? Teams are still going to throw the ball, and then your cornerback 2 and cornerback 3 are going to be targeted, and if they're a little bit weaker, that's a big hole on defense. I would rather feel confident that my cornerback 1 could handle getting targeted and then make a play on the football, and Paulson Adebo can 100% do that. He has warts as a player. I think when go routes and go balls and sometimes at the long speed, maybe a little bit of a challenge, maybe a little bit of a struggle, but even when this guy sometimes doesn't have the best play, his closing speed and long arms and, again, ball tracking skills, I think makes him a really good corner and a good fit for this team.
The weaknesses to me are, one, he's physical, for better or for worse, all right? So there's times where he's physical 8 yards down the field. And that'll get called, right? And sometimes they'll get called on 3rd down, and it'll be really frustrating for you. And then, again, deep down the field, vertically, because of how aggressive he plays, and he trusts his leverage and is patient, that allows guys to kind of get a step on him vertically.
Yeah.
Now, the good part of that is he has great ball skills, right? So even if he gives up a step or so on a receiver, unless that ball is like perfectly placed, he's able to get back in, and he turns those passes into interceptions at time, right? Quarterbacks throw perfect passes, but a lot of times they don't. And it's, what do you do with those? Like, turn your head around, right? Deontay Banks, if Deontay Banks didn't always have perfect coverage, but if he just got his head around, he could have been viewed as a much better corner. Adebo does that. Now, he does get beat, and there is times when he's like 2 steps behind where he'll get penalties. And they've, Saints fans at times have been really frustrated with Adebo. I think of that Falcons game. They're up by 2 points. They're on, the Falcons are trying to get in field goal range, and he has a terrible penalty 35 yards down the field and puts them in field goal range. That lost them the game. Now, he had a play 2 plays later where he almost intercepted it. Great play. So that almost lost them the game. So that is where the frustration is. There's going to be times with Adebo. There's going to be a game where Adebo gives up 85 yards and has a penalty on 3rd down where he is, Giants fans are frustrated. But with Adebo, it's that those turnovers are going to make up for it. It's going to help the Giants win games and win the field position battle and set up easy points and get stops that way. Because on the in breakers, your out routes and stuff like that, he plays with really good anticipation. Something with Deontay Banks that's a big negative is like when he's cheating leverage, receivers will just fake the other way. So then it's like, all right, well, I can't be behind if he's going that way. I'm already cheating one way. And then they get him overextending that way, and then we'll beat him the other way. Adebo is extremely patient in that, right? He's not worried about being a step behind because he trusts that he can get back that inside leverage and get his hands on the football because he does it really well. So he's patient in that. Again, there's the deep ball is going to be, sometimes it's going to be sick where he gets interceptions and pass breakups because that's what he does, and there's going to be times where he gets beat and has a penalty.
All right, we just found that Chauncey Golston is signing with the Giants, so that's why there was probably a little bit of a weird cut in the show, but we want to finish the Adebo conversation before we actually pause the show. All right, so Bobby, here's what I want to ask you about how Shane Bowen is actually going to use Paulson Adebo, because I have this little backbrain thought of the Saints. They like to kind of grow these guys that can make plays on the football on trees, like Alontae Taylor. Like, he has a lot of flaws. He allows a shit ton of yards, but he's a big-time playmaker where he also gets passes defensed and a lot of interceptions and things like that. Now, Adebo was 17th most press snaps from 2021 to 2024. And my overall question to you, you do a film review every single week. Is Shane Bowen going to put Paulson Adebo in a situation where he can pounce on these inbreakers, where he can maybe even play a little bit more press man, get in a guy's face and be a little bit more physical and actually utilize the things that he's good at? Because that is a question that I have, because the Saints are typically let their guys do that. Will Shane Bowen allow Adebo to do that?
Yeah, you got to let him cheat his leverage and understand where his help is, right? And I again, Shane Bowen has not shown that fully, right? So we need to see more of that, especially now that Deonte Banks is now moving to that cornerback 2 role, Justin. Okay, we feel more confident with him in press man coverage in that role. At cornerback 1, I feel like there was it was kind of too risky at times to have him there because of how he could get beat. You put him at that second one where he's not dealing with the type of wide receiver ones who have the ball skills to continually to beat him with the catch points, where he's able to recover a little better. Then I think you should, right? And then have your safeties on the same page where it's like, hey, this corner on this side is cheating inside or cheating outside. You need to be the help. You need to be the help that he can funnel that to you. So again, Shane Bowen, who I have not been impressed with as a defensive coordinator, This is not a player where you just put him on one side of the field, Justin, with with not safety help, but not like a schematic help, and let him win, because he wins with ball skills and turning over the ball, not by holding a receiver to 20 yards per game. And if you're not giving him ways to cheat and take chances, then you're just going to get a guy who gives up 50 to 60 yards per game and doesn't have the same ball production that he had with the Saints, but still better than anybody else on the Giants.
Right. What else we got?
Yeah, I mean, I like Adebo, man. Now, again, we haven't talked about this. He is coming off a broken leg, which is, a very weird injury. It's one of the hardest things to do.
Broken femur.
Yeah, broken, it's very hard to do, but it's not like a muscle, a nagging muscle injury. It's kind of,
isn't that what they always say? That's always what they say.
Is it better? Once he's healthy, he's healthy. He's doing backflips and stuff. I'm very impressed by that, but I also don't. That doesn't mean that he's up to the task of covering wide receiver ones in the NFL quite yet. So we'll see, right? That's the word, and that's why he didn't get $21 million per year or $20 million per year. And got a little bit less than what he probably would have. So yeah, that is a worry. We're not going to say him once he's healthy. Yes, that is a worry that he gets here and he's just not the same player coming off of a broken friggin' leg.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor, but what I do like is he's going to be 26 years old by the time the season starts. A lot of the other guys, Travarius Ward, I think, is in his 30s. DJ Reed and Byron Murphy are 28. So I like the fact that he's younger and he gets, I think, more guaranteed money than a guy like Travarius Ward. But the AAV is less. So I don't mind it.
Ward's 30, Adebo's 25. So
yeah.
So it obviously makes sense. Do you have anything else on Adebo before we get to the next thing?
No, I feel like, we may be missing some stuff, but I think we gave the premise. The guy's really good playing the football. He's going to force turnovers. He's going to get forced incompletions, pass breakups. He's one of the best in the league at doing that. In breaking routes, you mentioned Doug Analytics had a quote tweet of yours. He was the best he was the best out of all DBs with 8+ targets on in breaking routes with in terms of EPA per target. Guy's good, but he also has its warts in certain situations. I think he struggles a little bit long speed, obviously with the penalties, but he's a physical dude, and I hope Shane Bowen allows him to be who he is. I think that's now the biggest question mark is Shane Bowen.
Why don't you talk to us about something, Justin?
I will talk to you about something, and I will talk to you about DraftKings. Who's scoring big in the NBA this season? Well, you are, with all new ways to get in on the action with our partners at DraftKings Sportsbook. right now. All new customers who bet just $5, you're going to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you use code WORLD. From monster slams to dishing the rock to cleaning the glass, get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. New customers use code WORLD. Bet just $5 on any wager. Get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's code WORLD only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Bobby, what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. We'll be back talking with Darius Slayton and the other signings, but we got a break
Chauncey
at 11.
Golston.
We got a break at 11:25 at night because the Giants made another move.
Justin, we're back. This happens every couple of years in free agency where you wait till 11:30 at night to record the episode, and you're like, okay, we finally have waited to the last second, and then bam, Blake Martinez joins the Giants. Bam, Chauncey Golston joins the Giants. So we're gonna talk about Chauncey Golston and Darius Slayton first. The people who saw all that happen, right? They saw how the sausage was made. Kyle Brown, Justin, some special people, not Brown Kyle, but Kyle Brown. You know what? These people with their funny ass names think they're so funny. This name is Kenya Sugondiz. You're just so funny. So funny. It's going to be really funny when I send a sticker to that name and your mom is like, who is Kenya Sugondiz? AV, which, by the way, Justin, speaking of AV, average value, I'm a camcorder guy now.
Okay.
Like AV Club, Video Club, or whatever.
Got it. I was thinking of approximate value, the metric on Pro Football Reference.
True. I'm a camcorder guy now.
You're
and then Landon Bryant, not Landon Jackson, not Kobe Bryant. The combination of them two, Landon Bryant. He's got the Mamba mentality. Justin, who are the special people?
You're gonna come be a cameraman at the warehouse. Patreon.com/Talking Giants. Those wonderful people, that's where they are, and that's where they got to see Bobby and I'd be like, well, should we just redo the first part? And we're like, no, we're not going to redo the first part because we actually did a good job talking about Paulson Adebo, this, that, and that, though. Patreon.com/Talking Giants. Thanks for our patrons.
So, Justin, one of the last things I did as a bachelor was give my final takes on Darius Slayton. I'm like, okay, This is it. It's out there. It's done, right? This is one of the last things that's going to, words I was going to say. I was like, because he's not coming back to the Giants. Well, he's back, shockingly, and at a shocking number. The 28-year-old wide receiver who is now tied for to be the longest tenured Giant on the team with Dexter Lawrence. 3 years, $36 million. Now, I know there's a portion of people who are like, I hate Slayton and his drops, and that is ridiculous. I am shocked at that contract. Shocked.
Yep, me too.
Right? Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm shocked Slayton's back. When in reality, I'm like, well, they didn't trade him. I feel like there's value. I think they understand that they don't want to create that hole, but they might let him go. What I am shocked at is the fact that it came back at that contract, Justin. Because one, Gabe Davis and Darnell Mooney set like the minimum what I thought was going to be for Darius Slayton last offseason at 3 years, $39 million. Those guys that's a Darius Slayton level type of player, level types of players, especially. Darnell Mooney was, kind of hit a little bit of a pit in his career before playing well for Atlanta last year. It's like that's what he's going to get. $13 million per year is the minimum. And I was like, I'm hopeful we can get him, whether if it's at $14 million per year. Then, Justin, Tutu Atwell signs with the Rams for $10 million. De'Ami Brown gets $10 million. I'm like, shit.
No way.
This is it. Like, Slayton's done. And then Josh Palmer got 3 for $36 million from the Bills, who the Giants were in on. It's like, okay, this is the total end. And then he gets less than that. He got less than what I thought the bare minimum was going to be, Justin. So I'm clearly glad that Darius Slayton's back. I thought my takes on him were done, but we've got another 2 more years of them. To keep it simple, Justin, on why I believe Darius Slayton should be back. He is the Giants' second best wide receiver. He's a better player than Wan'Dale Robinson. And why do people want the bad New York Giants to create more holes on this team? You want Jack Betch in the 3rd round? Draft him. If he's good, you trade Slayton since he gets offers at the trade deadline time after time. He's led the Giants receiving 4 of his first 5 seasons with, 700-something yards. This year he was 3rd on the team with 573 while missing time. And he was on pace to have, he was on pace to have like what his normal season was, even as the second wide receiver. And then they cut Daniel Jones, and then he just became kind of an afterthought with the terrible, terrible quarterback play they got after that, where they force-feeded Neighbors, and which rightfully so force-feed Neighbors, but also unrightfully so force-feed Wan'Dale Robinson. Again, I thought this team is too bad to be creating holes. They don't have any other pending free agents that they need to make these big decisions on. They already let pending free agents walk last year with Saquon and Xavier McKinney. Like, are you just going to do this with your own? You keep your own, you take care of your own. I'm glad Slayton's back, not because he's the best player in the world, but he's a good player, and good is perfect should not be the enemy of good.
Yeah, and I think for that number is probably the most important part of this. If we're talking like 15 million and above, it's like, all right, well, glad to have Slayton back, but that's a number. But I cannot believe, again, you mentioned
it's a wide
De'Ami
receiver
Brown.
3 contract.
I can't believe it, man. I really can't. This is good. This is good stuff. I think it's Stockholm syndrome, because really, when
he can't quit us, and we can't quit him either.
When I was talking about Darius Slayton and the Giants and my overall thinking, it didn't even have anything to do with the Giants' interest in him. I'm like, dude, go catch a football from Justin Herbert and see what that does for your career. Go and check in and see if the Kansas City Chiefs want another fast wide receiver, or hey, Sam Darnold just signed with the Seahawks, and go to Clint Kubiak and they don't have any wide receivers, outside wide receivers over there in Seattle anymore. Maybe they'll give you a little bit of a bag, to get just a different change of scenery. And hey, even for the Seahawks, like Darius Slayton had a great game this past year against the Seahawks, where maybe they would be willing to throw him back. No, man, but he's back, and I'm glad the Giants have this opinion of Slayton that they can't quit him, but clearly Slayton can't quit him either. And I do think it's a good story of this is a guy that in 2022, week 1, Bobby, he wasn't just not a starter. He was a week 1 healthy scratch. And now just a couple years later, the Giants have given him now 2 contract extensions, and this one is the one that I think he really deserves.
Yeah, I mean, he took a hometown discount last time. I think he took another hometown discount.
I think he did.
Again,
too.
don't have like that source or anything, but just that number with it just doesn't make any sense that wasn't a hometown discount.
And he still doubled his AAV from his last contract, but still, he should have more than doubled it. Really, what I think his market value is.
Yeah, but we had an acceptance of Slayton leaving, Justin. We just thought it was going to happen. And, on an episode last week where we're like, what is the wide receiver 2 plan, though? Now that this seems like it's over, if you're not getting Devontae Adams, all the older vets don't make sense.
Nope.
There's nobody that's going to be a better bargain deal out there. Josh Palmer was the name that was thrown out. And again, he got the same exact contract. He's not as good as Darius Slayton. And then it's like, all right, if you're going to do it in the draft, where are you going to do that? Because unless you're picking it with a second-round pick, you have no guarantee that guy's going to be a day 1 starter. And again, you could still draft wide receiver in the 3rd round or 4th round or whatever with Darius Slayton on the team. It does not stop you from doing that. But yeah, that number, again, I think he's the second best wide receiver. No, I don't think. He is the second best wide receiver on the team now that Malik Neighbors is here. And whoever the Giants quarterback is, whether old or young, having a second outside threat like that who can win at all 3 levels, who you can trust, who helps guys get lined up in the right place, understands the playbook, is valuable to him.
Yes.
Now, he's going to still drop the ball, right? There's 2 years, 2023 and his rookie year, where he didn't have a drop issue. He's going to drop the ball, and it's going to be frustrating, right? It's a part of his imperfectness, and it's why he's not a wide receiver 1, right? And he's not going to make these big. He's not this super contested catch grab guy down the field, even though he wins vertically and gets some of them. So again, he's flawed. I'm not sitting here telling you he's perfect or anything, but he's been a good player for the Giants for a long time. And Justin, now that this contract's done, we joked about him being like 16th all time or whatever in receiving numbers for the Giants.
I have stats.
We are a good quarterback play away from him being second all time in Giants receiving.
Darius Slayton is 331 yards away from passing Jeremy Shockey in franchise receiving. He's 779 yards away from passing Hakeem Nicks, who is 9th all-time in receiving. And hey, I mean, it's a joke, but Darius Slayton is the guy that's going to put up 750 yards every single year of his career and just be mid enough to wind up in the top 5 maybe even top 2 in Giants wide receiver stats of all time. So, I mean, I say, like, I think there's a good chance that Darius Slayton is top 5 in all-time Giants receiving by the time this next contract is up. And what I really mean by that is I think 2 years. But yeah, I'm excited to repeat these stats and maybe even look into it a little bit more during the first PPP, since that's how we lit off Darius Slayton's last year's PPP, and that's how we're going to lead off with this one, kind of looking at all-time franchise and where he ranks in it, and it's a lot higher than you would think.
Yeah. It's so glad Slayton's back. I know there's a subset of fans who just cannot stand him because of the drops and because he's been the longest tenured player while not being a great player and one of the worst times of Giants history, right?
But I also need fans to look at themselves in the mirror and ask, well, who instead?
No, there's no good answer.
There's no good answer.
Unless you believe in drafting one in the second round or something.
Correct. But also, I think we've learned through these last 2 years. I don't think Darius Slayton is this awesome, great leader. But I also don't think he's a bad leader. And I think he is valuable. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that he is, that he deserves to be a captain and put the C on his chest and whatever. But I do think he is valuable for that room. And with all of the other alternatives that we could have had, including drafting somebody and that being the only answer, I really value Darius Slayton's presence on this team, especially for him being a leader.
Yeah, can the Giants upgrade wide receiver too? Sure, but they need to upgrade a lot, and creating another hole when you have no other pending free agent that you're going to sign for more than a couple of pennies, I think was 100% worth it. All right, Justin, let's talk about the news that made us have to stop our episode and say, son of a gun, pissing me off. Well, it's actually not pissing me off, Justin, because I like this player. In fact, I went back and looked at my notes. We talked about him in last year's June, way too early, 2025 free agency preview. And that's Chauncey Golston from the Dallas Cowboys. 6'5", 270 pounds. I'm calling him a defensive lineman because he plays edge. He plays defensive tackle, 27 years old. The Giants signed him for 3 years, $19.5 million, 6.5 average annual value. Again, we don't have with the numbers on the guaranteed and stuff. All these 3-year deals, I kind of look at them, they're probably 2-year deals, and you get them out of them at the third year.
Yep.
Last year was his first time as a starter, like a full-time starter, at 56 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss. So solid production. The year before didn't have like the great production, but he played more on the interior in 2023. He was more of a full-time edge in 2024. He was pretty disruptive in that defense in 2023. Like you look at out of 129 defensive tackles, he was 7th in pass rush win rate. Now, the production jumped this last year, but the metrics fell off playing defensive end more full-time. Now, he's a better run defender at edge, where he was a little bit of, not a liability, but he wasn't great at that defensive tackle spot. So it's a little give and take with him no matter what position he's playing at. But this is the type of contract that I kind of love because it's, one, it's not a lot of money, and it brings you depth. And it brings you depth at both defensive tackle and edge. He's a disruptive player. I know you have some run stop, numbers where he's been, made the most of his time, even if he's not the best run defender in the world. This is like a depth matter moves, and again, I would like him to play mostly on the interior, but him helping out with the run defense on the edge and being able to, set up some stunts, like you can move him around. I hope he plays mostly on the interior, but this is the type of move the Giants should make, right? I don't love the other depth signings that we're going to get into. This is one that I do.
Yeah, I think the 3-year deals when they're actually technically 2 years for depth pieces, I think that is it's a good decision, and especially for a team that needs depth and should value depth more than they do. I really value this. I almost wish that, like, this type of signing was made earlier on in Joe Schoen's tenure to kind of like, all right, let's increase the floor a little bit. And I think that's exactly what this Chauncey Golston signing is. I would hope on early downs that he plays on the edge, and then I hope on third downs or passing situations, that's where I would hope that maybe he would swing to the interior. He brings a little bit more speed. He brings a little bit more of a finesse to him versus as an edge rusher, I think he could bring a little bit more of a power effect. And then also him going up against tight ends, like, you should consider that a win for a guy that's 268 pounds with kind of like this, this defensive lineman pedigree going up against tight ends against the run. Like, I'm giving a big thumbs up there. So among edge rushers last year, Chauncey Golston was 15th in total run stops with 21, and a run stop rate of 6.8%, which is 21st. Which, hey man, if we're talking about this being the number 3 edge rusher on the team, that's not too bad. And my overall goal for the Giants this offseason for their number 3 edge rusher, for whatever defensive lineman, again, we'll call him a defensive lineman, for whatever defensive lineman they're going to bring in, and maybe even specifically an edge rusher, like I said, as a run stopper, I want that guy, since we already have 2 guys in Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns that are plus pass rushers. I want somebody that I can confidently take Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau off the field on first and second down and come in and not be a liability. And this guy was a starter last year for the Dallas Cowboys, who typically are pretty deep on the lines and their edge rushers and their pass rushing units. So I think this is good. I don't the sacks last year weren't that overly impressive, even though it was his career high in sacks. But I'm a sole believer in, I want Golston early downs edge rusher, and then on pass rushing downs, pass rushing situations, you can flip him to the interior. Maybe he runs some stunts with the edge rushers and whatnot, and you can have a fast front 3 with Dex being a powerful number 4.
Yeah, and he's good setting up those stunts, which is obviously a big part of the Shane Bowen defense. Like, he's someone you move all across the line, and again, depth matters.
Yes.
Right? Like, I like Azeez Ojulari. You told me 3 years, $19.5 million for Azeez Ojulari or Chauncey Golston. Even though Azeez has more pass rush ability, I'm taking Chauncey Golston, right? Because he, gives you that run defense, gives you that flexibility, and again, it gives you some size out on the edge with the Giants. They don't have a ton of beef there. You got more, speed rushers. So this is the depth matters moves, and Golston is a sign of taking it more seriously, especially on the defensive front, where it matters more. And I want to continue keep throwing pieces at that spot. He's been. I thought Washington was going to make a run at him with Dan Quinn. So yeah, I'm a Chauncey Golston fan. This depth matters, and I really like having him on this team.
Yeah, I think he can take advantage of bad guard play too on third downs. If you have guards that if their feet are slow, if their feet are in cement, I think Golston can have a good time rushing the passer. So
I get plenty of one-on-ones.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, this is a good spot for him. So we got Paulson Adebo, we got Darius Slayton, and we got Chauncey Golston. Justin, let's get to the last few moves that the Giants have made. But before that, Justin's episode is brought to you by SeatGeek. The MLB season is just around the corner. Basketball and hockey, those seasons, guess what they're doing? They're heating up. And artists like Morgan Wallen and Kendrick Lamar and The Weeknd are on tour. How about that? They're on the tour. And with our partners at SeatGeek, you can now get 10% off any tickets with code GIANTS2025. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek. That's a lot, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Right now, you get tickets to baseball games, NBA, and NHL, not to mention tons of concerts and other events. You want me to fill in the blank on some other events?
Yes.
I'm going to the NASCAR race in Homestead, Miami. How about that? Guess where I got my tickets? SeatGeek. It's a shame that NASCAR moved that race to March. It was a great race for the chase. But for me personally, because I have to work, in that time of year for football on Sundays, now I can just go and enjoy it. So selfishly, I like it. Good job, NASCAR. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. Just look for the green dots, baby. Green means good. Red means bad. So I use SeatGeek for all the live events, whether it's Orlando Magic game, NASCAR race, Giants game. We talked about the schedule release today, Justin. And it's like, what game are we going to go to this year? And we came through for you guys. You can use code GIANTS2025 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code GIANTS2025. You'd be glad you did. All right, Justin, let's get into the legitimate depth, not really rotating in guys of day one of free agency. And it'll start with James Hudson, offensive tackle from the Cleveland Browns, 6'5", 313 pounds, 25 years old. 17 career starts, Justin, over the last 2 years. In 10 starts, he's given up 4 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, and 23 pressures. He got 2 years, $12 million. And we got to see the guarantees and whatever the incentives are in this contract before I give a full take on it. But what I will say is, if that's like, if he's legitimately making like $5 to $6 million per year, I think that's pretty wild, because I don't think he's this player that can't ever be fixed. But right now, he is a broken player. He's pretty athletic. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he has been a bad player for the Cleveland Browns. And that's including with Bill Callahan being there for three of his the years of his career. Last year he was 76 out of 83 tackles in pass blocking efficiency. Chris Hubbard was 83rd, 63rd of 67 the year before. I know that contracts are different now, right? Jalen Moore, who's a career backup, got 2 years, $30 million from the Chiefs. So it's all relative, and I've been a big proponent of taking the swing tackle position more serious, but I am shocked that they're getting what right now is a really bad player for $6 million per year.
I kind of feel like that's what's happening, though. Right?
Yeah, but James Hudson right now is a bad player. So now you're just paying $6 million for I'm not talking like middle. He's not average.
But here's my rebuttal.
He's not average or slightly below average. He's a really bad player right now.
If you can find me a good swing tackle that's available as a free agent, there's probably one better, right? There's probably one that
there is Udo, from the Vikings and the Saints.
Yeah, man.
There's other names out there like.
Here's the good with Hudson. I'm going to tell you the good with Hudson. I watched the full game against the Cowboys, and he has very quick feet. It's almost like who Josh Azudu would want to be at tackle, except that's not who you really want to strive to be, because Hudson's not very good. I agree with you. His numbers are not good. His efficiency numbers are not good. He gets out of his stance quick. He has very quick feet. As a puller, I think he can get out and move in space, but that's not going to be, how often is that going to be happening? Giants like to run screens. I think that could be something that he could be effective in, but I think everything besides that is kind of messy. That's what I'm calling it. I think he's a little unbalanced. I don't think there's a ton of power to his game, but he can get out of his stance, man. The DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons were, lining up at some Y9 stuff, and he got his ass out there, man. He got in a spot where, at least in a decent spot, and there were some times where he's hand fighting with DeMarcus Lawrence. So, again, I don't think this guy's great, but also, if you want to take swing tackle seriously, and you want the Giants to go out there and acknowledge it in free agency, like I don't know if there's the perfect swing tackle.
There's not
out there. That's the thing,
There's not. But my issue, Justin, is that if he is exactly what he was last year, he's bottom 5 tackle play in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right. So again, swing tackle is this whole thing. I've always, said swing tackle takes the contract says taking it more serious. The player, I don't think does. And again, I think he can be a project to, get better in two years or so. But right now, if he goes in, I don't feel any better about the swing tackle spot than I did with Chris Hubbard last year for the New York Giants. At least Hubbard gave you a pretty nice advantage in the run game. And he's better than Azudu, right? That's a clear, we've crossed that bar, which is, I guess, nice. But I think he's a pretty bad player, which is, again, I know it's weird how the NFL is going and tackles. Again, Jalen Moore got 2 years, $30 million, and he's never been a starter on purpose for the San Francisco 49ers. And not to anybody. The Kansas City Chiefs signed him to that contract, by the way.
David Moore, right, too, from the Steelers?
Dan Moore, yeah, but Dan Moore has he's been a solid-ish starting left tackle.
Yeah, Chris Rose called him a turnstile, and he watches him twice a year with the Browns. So it's also Myles Garrett.
Well, he also watches him against fucking Myles Garrett.
Yeah, that's true, and the rest of them in the AFC North, Hendrickson and whatnot.
Yeah,
so.
and I don't think that contract was good by Tennessee, but he's not terrible. But Jalen Moore contract when I because Twitter wasn't working, so I was actually using the TV today.
Yeah.
To try and and they were talking about Jalen Moore starting. I was like, do we really got to react to everything? Jalen Moore, yeah, he's with the Chiefs. Maybe he can be a backup. Maybe you can move him inside. Which I was a Jalen Moore guy out of Western Michigan, by the way. People forget I took him in the mock drafts. And then I saw the contract. I was like, oh, well, actually, he is going to start for them at tackle, which is crazy to think about. But I'm a Jalen Moore fan out of Western Michigan. I thought he could be a swing tackle possibility. I guess friggin' not. But I just think James Hudson's a bad player. Obviously, we're not going to love every single move. We like the first that we talked about.
I don't hate it. Like I don't like the player and the numbers.
What do you like about it?
That
it's the contract.
I don't. Again,
if he signed for 2 years, $3 million, would we be like swing tackles taken care of? Like he's still the same exact player. It's that contract. Would you be like, all right, well, that's swing tackle?
No,
because he hasn't shown that with his level of play.
No, really, it's. I kind of just think this is the going rate now for these kinds of guys, and like I'm not convinced that who the Chiefs sign. I'm not convinced that he's going to start. I think the Chiefs would be even willing to upgrade in the draft and possibly even start, and that would be an extremely expensive backup swing tackle. But I think they're willing to do that, considering what they just had to go through in the Super Bowl with having a guard play tackle. The NFL may change in that regard.
Oli Odu last year got a 1-year, $2 million contract, who's been like a swing tackle in the NFL for a while.
Isn't Illuminor getting just as much money?
Yeah, he has 2 years for 14. Obviously, shit changes and stuff. Like Illuminor would get way more in this market.
And we're not entertaining James Hudson starting at right tackle. And
no. Even Jermaine Illuminor was like, I almost got suspended from Twitter. I was like, if someone, Arch suggested maybe that, and I was like, I'll shoot a gun. I'm not going to tell you where or at what, but I will shoot a gun if this happens.
I'm not entertaining that. I'm not entertaining that either. But it's a good question that you asked me. Well, it's like, why don't you not hate it? And honestly, here I guess here's my answer. It's an investment in swing tackle and a backup depth player that the organization chose to take on day one of free agency. Even if I don't like the player, I can at least respect here, are you ready for the buzzword? I can at least respect the process of it.
Process. Justin, the next player the Giants signed, which was actually the second player, was Roy Robertson-Harris, defensive tackle from the Seahawks, 2 years, $10 million. Again, don't know the details on what's guaranteed and what's not. 6'5", 290-pound defensive tackle. Was actually coached by Andre Patterson at UTEP. 31 years old. Never really had any production in the NFL. 2 sacks, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 3. I think without seeing who else they get a defensive tackle, would you add Chauncey Golston? I know the 2 for 10 is like, oh, well, he's going to play. I actually think he'll probably slide in as that fifth defensive tackle. Because his role, again, another guy who's kind of a tweener between defensive tackle and edge, which it's surprising, right? When I popped on his film, Justin, they played him a lot on edge. Now, he gives you no pass rush production over there, where in the interior he can give you a little bit, not much, but a little bit. But he's also a much better run defender out on the edge, where he'll pin down a tight end and do solid against a tackle. But then in the run game on the interior, it's like anytime you run wide zone, he's just like an easy pickings on a combo to the linebacker. So he's got some quickness to possibly set up some stunts, and again has that versatility in lining up. Because it's the second move of free agency, we're like, all right, what does this mean? I don't have I can't just project you a role for him right now. But right now, I would go Dexter Lawrence is defensive tackle 1, obviously. And I actually think Nacho and Golston get more snaps. And then Roy Robertson-Harris, I keep on doing the Robertson-Harrison, would be after them. But we expect him to invest in this position in the drafts too. So I don't think he gets much playing time. But again, investing in some depth. Even if he is your 5th defensive tackle, he would have been your 3rd last year.
Yeah, this is the move that I least liked from today, just because I think this is a very bland player. He's a very stale player. He was 113th in defensive lineman run stop rate this past year. Now, I will say, and this is according to Doug Analytics, 80% of his tackles did result in a negative EPA, which ranked 50th out of 144.
Just didn't have a lot of tackles.
So that's not bad, but I think Robertson-Harris, he's going to flash some quickness. I think he flashes some quick hands. I think a decent first punch and a decent first step, but overall, I think he's a stale player, and I think if we're going to rely on a guy that if we're like he makes his money against tight ends, and that's like what we're really like. You identified that in the film breakdown, and that's like where we're identifying his strengths are. I don't love that. Now, his usage was weird. You talked about inside and outside splits. Now, the Jaguars kind of used him mostly as a pass rusher, where 140 of his 210 snaps were as a pass rusher, where he only had 65 run defense snaps. Then he goes to Seattle with the 188 snaps, and he's a little bit more even, but 100 run defense snaps and only 86 pass rush snaps. So a guy that actually started his career off pretty strong with his first 3 years in Chicago, with 4 sacks each in the first 3 years of his career, at least scored in the PFF, and then he even had 7 QB hits, additional hits on top of the sacks in his second and third year respectively, and then kind of just like cooled off after that and just never got better. If anything, he's kind of gotten worse and less playing time throughout his career. So he came in
light and he's added more weight to survive at the position.
Why I'm the most lukewarm about this signing, Bobby, is because I just really don't know what his role and what his fit is.
Agreed. But I think the 5th defensive tackle is what it is. But because it was the second signing of free agency after Paulson Adebo, it's not a minimum contract at 210. It's like, all right, what is the role? But I think the role is the 5th defensive tackle. And I agree. Like when he's on the field, I think he's a negative to the team. But what 5th defensive tackle, unless you're the 2021 New York Giants, we had BJ Hill's defensive tackle 5.
Yeah.
Boy, did we know how to draft him. What happened to the team I love? That's like, I know we all love Elijah Chapman and the stunts and stuff, but like Robertson-Harris gives you much more value in the run game, even though Chapman's, a little quicker, right? Where if Chapman is playing any snaps against the run, it's a loss. So again, he's got getting some quickness. So I just think he's the 5th defensive tackle. And the last guy that the Giants signed, Justin, Chris Board, 2 years, up to $6 million for his special team prowess. How about that? He's played over 80% of special team snaps in his 7-year career. So basically everything except for the field goal team. A special teams captain. And Justin, he can actually play a little linebacker if needed, right? He's not this Nate Ebner type of special teamer where he just plays no defense. Like he's played over 1,000 defensive snaps for actual good defenses like the Patriots and the Ravens, Justin. And I did one of my favorite pastimes, Justin, when the Giants signed a free agent. And what is that?
When a Giants signed a free agent? Oh, you tried to see if they had some sort of interaction with the Giants and or if they sacked Daniel Jones.
Yeah, he sacked Daniel Jones twice in the 2020 game. Which Chauncey Golston did sign. I got a clip of him sacking Daniel Jones twice in 2020.
Yeah, terrible Mark Lewinsky. It's terrible fucking Mark Lewinsky reps.
The other ones was like they weren't setting the protections right against the Ravens in that 2020 game. Remember when DJ just couldn't move? Now,
oh, yeah, terrific.
We're gonna get a new quarterback, so I'm gonna have to find new connections and stuff. But it's like a drug I can't quit. It's like, so now I just say the sacks against the Giants and not Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a special teams player. So let Michael Gabriel get a guy. This might be the end for Carter Coughlin. We'll miss you. We love you. You'll forever be in our hearts. But he actually can be a backup linebacker while also being a special teams captain. So
yeah,
fine by me. I'm not breaking down any special teams film. I'll take your word on it.
Apparently he's pretty quick. Dog Analytics put that he's sometimes too quick on kickoffs. And Jeff Zrebic, I don't know if that's how you say his last name. He's the
Ravens writer for The Athletic.
I'm going to read his tweet word for word. Surprised the Ravens weren't more aggressive in trying to keep Board, who was voted the special teams captain last year. Board played team-leading 386 special team snaps last year. Also contributed as reserve interior linebacker. His role was increasing as the year went on as well, and some fans in the replies were like, I thought that they were really going to keep him, and they liked him. So there you go. There's special teams analysis.
Yeah, special teams. I mean, it's 1/3 of the game. People don't realize how important special teams are sometimes, but it is 1/3 of the game. It's not. It's like 10%, especially nowadays as the kickoff rules change. Actually, I guess it's becoming a little more important. But hey, I can't name my favorite Chris Board special teams play, but I will take their word on it that he's a good special teams player. He's a special teams captain, so that's hard to do if you're not a kicker, long snapper, or punter.
I can name my favorite Cam Brown play. My favorite Cam Brown special teams play.
Well, he's not. He was on our team for 4 years. I'm talking about guys who
that's true.
We don't watch actively.
Can you name your favorite Cam Brown special teams play?
I mean, the plays that I really meant for Cam Brown special teams was in preseason when he was like being introduced at gunner, and he was
that same with me against the Browns. That's the same with me when he was a gunner, and he was awesome.
I did a cut up of those 2 plays.
I think I might have done something similar.
That's when we were most anti special teams, and also the most we ever talked about because Joe Judge had like 6 special teams only guys on the team.
Yep.
Devontae Downs, started linebacker. Shouldn't have cut Ryan Connolly. All right, we will see you guys soon. The Giants are going to sign a quarterback, so we're not going to give you any thoughts about the future because it's going to happen. So just whenever they do it, we'll talk about it.
We don't have anything else to talk about.
Oh, happy birthday, Justin.
Thank you. Yeah, you said you were going to tell me something at the end of the show.
Well, then no, I was just going to I was going to give you a more formal, like not skipping it over type thing. Because if it was, a random episode, we'd spend a minute and a half on your birthday in the beginning. But this is one of those episodes where you got to go straight into the content because it's,
I agree.
It's a big one.
All right, we don't want to give any, no quarterback talk.
No, because it's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
So we might as well just wait until that happens.
Are you so what do you overall day one? You're pleased?
The 3 biggest contracts I like. James Hudson, I don't like, and I know people are going to be like, you're the swing tackle guy. How do you not like that? Robertson-Harris, and I don't like that contract, but I genuinely think their vision for him is the 5th defensive tackle, so whatever. And then Chris Board I like. Hell, enough people have told me he's good at special teams for me to like that one.
Yeah.
So Adebo, again, there's obviously the risk of his injury, but I guess I said it on the free agency preview. I think he's the best corner available.
Yeah.
Darius Slayton, you guys know my fucking thoughts on bringing him back, and then you get him on a contract cheaper than what I thought. That's a Bobby W. Chauncey Golston, he's somebody I identified on our way too early free agency preview that we do every June. That's another W. James Hudson, a L. Robertson-Harrison, a neutral, and then Chris Board. I think Chris Board may become a Talking Giants favorite at some point, so I'm gonna mark that down as a W.
Yeah. I do like. I mean, I
love Michael Gabriel. So I'm a fan of giving Michael Gabriel guys.
I just saw the, one of the tweets from one of the big J's. Just like summarizing what the Giants did with Golston, and it kind of is nice that we're talking about somebody that's coming off of a legit career year from like a somewhat legitimate team. Even though I think the Cowboys roster is not very good anymore. They have stars that are going to carry them to good places, but I don't think the roster overall is very good. But it is kind of cool that we're talking about somebody that's coming off of a career year as a starter. We signed them to a deal, and we don't have the over the moon expectations for this guy to come in and save the defense or anything like that. Like, no, we're talking about this guy being a number 3 and a situational player that can come in and do good things for us, and that I think that's kind of awesome. It's kind of like refreshing that we're doing that for once.
Yeah, I agree. Also, and we talk about quarterback. I think guard's coming down the pipe too. Like, I think they're gonna spend some money on guard, and that'll kind of be it outside of quarterback. But
which that would be a lot of money. Like if you add it all up, because the quarterback is going to be
this is gonna be a big spending.
The quarterback is going to be over $30 million a year. Can you? I can't even talk about Russell Wilson right now. But it would be a big offseason where, I think right now we're looking at it as being like, oh, Joe Shane, responsible, calculated. But, even if they make 2 more moves, one at guard, one at quarterback, you would think that maybe they make some other signings as depth. It's a lot of money spent in one offseason.
Yeah. Yeah. Can I tell you something? I kind of want Cam Ward. I'm a Cam Ward guy.
Yeah, I'll be real with you, man. I'm not as big of a Cam Ward guy as you, but Cam Ward would be sick.
Yeah. All right, that's an episode. We'll see you guys soon. Basically, whenever they sign a quarterback, we'll be back. We'll see you then. Until then, let's go Big Blue.